show you how I made this adorable table runner using Riley Blake Patriotic fabric, my superior Topstitch needles, and my superior thread Pima, which I'm really falling in love with. So I cut my strips into red, white, and blue, 2.5 inches, and I sewed them together in red, white, and blue, and this made a 12-inch wide finished size. Then I cut out 12-inch star blocks and put those together so that I could flank each end of my table runner. And once I got this star block put onto my table runner, I got it ironed really well, and it was time to take this beautiful table runner underneath my Bernina and get quilting. So I put my batting and my backing on, and I decided I'm going to ruler quilt this center. And I started out by basting all the way around, and then I went with my ruler. Now, when you're using a ruler, make sure that that ruler is against your ruler foot before you start, or you're going to hop right on top of it, you're going to run over it, and you are going to ruin or set off your tension. Ask me how I know this. I've done it. I've had to have my tension adjusted because I just jumped right on top of my ruler foot, and that's what happened to me. So the thing I like about ruler quilting is I can use my gloves, I can hold my ruler and go and stitch the ditch pretty much any way I want. This is the ruler I prefer because I like the markings on it, and I know when I am against the ruler, I am stitching 1/4 inch off. Then I pulled up my thread and I tied it off. I like to pull up my bobbin thread to the top. I kind of just take the top thread, swoop it underneath my needle or underneath my foot, and I pull it up and trim it. A lot of times I bury my thread, but when it's something like my own table runner that's nice and simple, a lot of times I just bring up the bobbin thread and I just trim it off. So sometimes you'll see me burying, sometimes I will not. Then it was time to start stitching in the ditch around my star block. And when I do that, I also use my ruler foot. And as you can see, I'm going in a different direction. That is what really makes these free motion quilters so nice, is you don't have anything to turn, so you can fit any size thing underneath it. Now this time I am using my hands and I'm pushing. Of course, this is free motion, so the machine's not moving by itself. You're actually moving the fabric. And so it does take some hand and eye coordination to kind of get that set. You don't have to be an artist to do this. You can just start practicing and you guys will be able to stitch the ditch too. I'm using the edges of the ruler to determine where I'm at, and I also have on my foot there, I have like a little mark so I can kind of see where I'm going. And so I don't go too far. I just kind of push and advance my quilt and my ruler. Don't clench your jaws or your shoulders because you're going to be sore if you do. Just relax, just push it. And now I'm going sideways and I'm going to stitch the ditch in the center block. That way I can get a lot of poof when I start working on that center block. And so see, I can just rotate my ruler and go around anything. So now I'm just going to outline and stitch the ditch of my flying geese block. I like to do this, stitching the ditch and not just quilting over the top of everything when I'm doing custom work like this, because I like the way it makes my blocks pop, especially when I add in some fillers, and it makes that area really pop. That is certainly one of my favorite things to do. Now, you can see me moving this material around. I really don't need to do that, but because it's a runner and I like to be able to look and hold my feet like this when I'm quilting. Also notice where my hands are. I don't want to advance too far away from that ruler and around the needle. I like pressing with my thumbs, because if you kind of move the wrong way or release tension, that ruler fishtails, and then you're going to get zooming outside of it, which is okay if you do. I've done it, believe me, and that's how I have learned. So I'm just going to continue stitching in the ditch, and then we'll get to doing some more detailed quilting. Now I'm on the other end, on the other star, and I wanted to show you from a different view how I do this ruler quilting. I'm going to go around this block, and I'm going to show you how you can do it without turning your material. So right here, as you can see, I don't make big movements. Big movements equals big mistakes. Small movements equals small mistakes. And they're not really mistakes. They're just squigglies that you can get if you're not careful. And just try to make small adjustments instead of big jagged adjustments. And that really does help your quilting a lot. But as you can see, I'm moving up, dragging it kind of toward me now, dragging my material toward me. And once I get up to this corner, then I can go from right to left. So I've quilted left to right, down and up, and now I'm going to go right to left, which is really nice because I don't have to turn a ginormous quilt. So it's kind of something you got to learn when you're sitting down quilting, is learning how to do this. And once you do, it really is helpful. And then from there, I could go straight down. And this kind of feels like normal sewing, except you are the one, you're the feed dog. You're actually feeding this, but don't go too fast because, again, you want to take this slow. You're not in a hurry. We're not worried about rabbit speed quilting. And then once I get this done, I'm going to start adding some detail to the center of that star. And that's why I kind of quilted on the outside first, is because I want to add puffiness. Now I'm just going to go from edge to edge because I'm going to create some pattern, just kind of some blocks inside this block, and it looks really good. And so had I been thinking, I wouldn't have tied off. I would have found myself a route where I didn't have to tie off and start over, but I didn't think about it till I did. And so that's why I kind of jumped and skipped over there. If you can find yourself like a Pac-Man pattern that you follow and just, some of you guys will know what I'm talking about, but then you will be able to go from side to side and quilt yourself. You can always draw yourself some lines and follow those if you want to, but I found pretty much that ruler draws the line for me and I just follow it. So I'm just going to keep on going across and let you guys see how you can crisscross and make some beautiful designs inside this block. Okay, so I'm really super happy with the way that turned out. Look how that block pops. Now we're going to add some more detail to make it pop further. I'm going to add some detail to these little rectangles, like my half square triangles and my flying geese. In that triangle, I love to add wishbones. So when you're doing a wishbone, let's pretend we're doing cursive. Now, I'll post a different video on how to do this, but what I'm doing is basically I'm making a cursive capital S, but instead of being real curly with it, I'm using the lines when they go through the center. I'm using them straight. So I start with a lowercase L. I go up like I'm going to make a capital S, and then I go zooming straight, and then I do the loop at the bottom. I'm aiming for my middle loop to be at the top at that triangle, and then once I get down, I do my last little lowercase L, and then I'm done. So now check out my star. Look how my wishbones made that pop. So now what I'm going to do is quilt what looks like wind on this flag part because I kind of want it to look like a flag that's blowing in the wind. And this is just super easy to do. If you notice, my hands are a lot further apart. And I am just kind of making waves, really, just hills up and down, kind of like flowing wind. And I just go across. Now, you don't have to go too fast. I'm going slower than I normally would so you can see my hands walk across. And then once I get to the other end, I can just zoom down the seam there and then I can head on my way back. And I kind of follow the flow of the line above, except sometimes I change it a little to make it look like it's changing directions in the wind. And I just keep going back and forth. Now, when I go straight down the seam right before that star block, I probably should have put a ruler next to it so that it sunk into the seam and you couldn't see it, but it kind of looks a little wavy there on the end, and you know what, that's okay because I'm not going to pick it out because it's just, it looks really good, and perfection is the enemy of good. It really is. You will drive yourself crazy if you pick everything out. Remember, it's cohesive because when I pull this off here, you're going to see some beautiful quilting. So now I'm just going to quilt. I'm just going to trim along the edges here. And I like using my Cutterpillar clamp there to hold it because I do have hand and wrist issues. I made a binding strip out of red, white, and blue. And I just sewed those strips together and went on around my quilt. I also mitered my corners. Oh, I'm using my Bernina 1/4 inch foot. I love this 1/4 inch foot. It really does help me get close to the edge and make a really nice straight seam. And then once I got toward the end, I'm thinking I'm home free. I realized, you know what? I don't have enough. Oh my gosh. Has that ever happened to you where you don't have enough and you thought you measured correctly? Well, I didn't. So I had to cut myself an additional strip. And then I had to sew that on while it's still on your material. Thank goodness this isn't a ginormous quilt that I'm having to do that with. So I just sewed me some white onto my red so I could continue my red, white, and blue strip. And then once I got finished with that, I had plenty to complete and go all the way around my quilt for my binding. When I do my binding, I take my two pieces and I measure like a 1/4 inch from each other onto the quilt. And then what I'll do when I think I have the way I want, I'll pin where I'm going to sew my seam, and then I will stretch the material out and test it and see if I'm going to have enough length or if I need to shorten this so that the binding will lay flat. And as you can see, once I pinned it and I kind of laid it flat there, that's exactly where it needed to be. It's laying nice and flat. So then I sewed that corner together, and then I trimmed the edges, and I was able to sew this binding on, and I got it nice and flat. I was really pleased with the outcome. Flip it over to the front. I'm not a hand sew binder, not typically, but something I need to learn probably. But anyway, so now I'm just going to iron it so that I can get a nice fold over. I really like this Riley Blake fabric for the back. I just thought it was very USA. And now I'm just flipping it over and I'm clipping it into place so I can take it over to the sewing machine and finish sewing my binding. I'm still using a Topstitch needle 80/20 from Superior Threads. And look at this corner. I'm so happy with that corner. It turned out really good. I love it when that happens. It's just feels so victorious when it just folds over and looks lovely like that. So now I'm ready to put it on my dining room table. Look at this. Look how beautiful and patriotic. And then I just added a few sprays to my centerpiece, and it's Happy Birthday America. I want to thank you for joining me on this video and my YouTube channel. Please subscribe for more instructional videos on how to long arm quilt your projects. Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you on my next video.